The year 1915 came in with sleet and mud. In the brief pause of winter, the motionless armies of both sides waited. The British government surveyed the ruin of the war's early hopes and took stock of the future. Grave doubts now replaced the first bright optimism. Powerful minds applied themselves to strategy and tactics. Was the deadlock of the Western Front permanent? Could it be broken? Would the French spring offensive succeed in thrusting the Germans back? There were those who doubted. Lord Kitchener was one.
The German lines in France may be looked on as a fortress that cannot be completely invested, with the result that the lines may be held by an investing force, whilst operations proceed elsewhere.
Operations elsewhere. But where? The Baltic? The Mediterranean? In the first days of August 1914, the German cruiser Breslau and the new fast battlecruiser Goeben had been in the Mediterranean. 16 British warships closed in on them. To escape capture, the German vessels raced towards Turkey, a neutral state, but a neutral with pro-German sympathies. Germany offered the two ships to the Turkish Navy. Their commander became a Turkish admiral. Already the chief of staff of Turkey's army was a German, with another German general in charge of training. Under a figurehead sultan, Turkey was ruled by Enver Pasha. His power was absolute, but dependent on German support. His ambitions were grandiose. In October 1914, Enver Pasha had permitted the Goeben and the Breslau to enter the Black Sea to shell Russian ports and sink every ship in their path. By the 30th of October, Turkey was at war with the Allied powers. The British War Council considered the possibilities of a naval attack on the Dardanelles. Here the prizes of success seemed glittering indeed. Egypt and the Suez Canal would be secured. Italy and the Balkan states would be induced to join the Allies. Russia would be able to import munitions from the Western Allies and America. And Russia's huge stores of grain, bottled up in the Black Sea ports, would be released. It was indeed an attractive project. On January the 14th, 1915, the British War Council's mind was made up.
The Admiralty should prepare for a naval expedition in February to bombard and take the Gallipoli Peninsula, with Constantinople as its objective.
The naval attack opened on the 18th of February, 1915. For the next 2 weeks, the British and French fleet attempted to destroy the forts guarding the Dardanelles. Hampered by bad weather, they still made useful progress. Marines and bluejackets went ashore, blew up abandoned guns and wrecked Turkish emplacements. They met only light opposition. The task seemed easy.
The greatest satisfaction was expressed at the Admiralty, and I found myself in these days surrounded by smiling faces.
Unexpected difficulties now arose. Forts, apparently silenced, came to life again. New Turkish guns appeared. Minefields impeded the Allied battleships. The unarmed trawlers trying to sweep the mines were driven off by gunfire. Doubts about the Navy's ability to finish the job alone began to grow. In London, Lord Fisher, First Sea Lord, said,
"The Dardanelles, futile without soldiers. Someone will have to land at Gallipoli some time or other."
But where were the soldiers to be found? Lord Kitchener, weighing the demands of the Western Front, faced a difficult decision. There were troops in Egypt, the Anzacs, the Australian and New Zealand Army Corps, Indians, British territorials. Half-trained, ill-equipped, they were not yet an army. Something more had to be added, a regular division. There was only one left, the 29th, and it was already promised to the Western Front. Reluctantly, Kitchener agreed to release the 29th to Gallipoli. The French government also offered a division. That made 70,000 men ready for action. As Commander-in-Chief, Kitchener appointed his friend Sir Ian Hamilton, a general of great distinction, for whom the war had not yet found a role. Kitchener told him,
"We are sending a military force to support the fleet now at the Dardanelles, and you are to have command. If the fleet gets through, Constantinople will fall of itself, and you will have won not a battle, but the war."
On the 18th of March, Hamilton watched the Navy deliver its final assault on the Narrows, the strip of water 8 miles long, sometimes less than a mile wide, which was the gateway to Constantinople. Early afternoon, and all was going well. Suddenly, the French battleship Bouvet blew up with an immense explosion and vanished within 2 minutes, taking with her nearly 700 men. By the end of the day, 3 Allied battleships had gone down. 3 more were severely damaged by mines and gunfire. The action was called off. The fleet retired from the straits. The Turkish gunners, down to their last few rounds of ammunition, waited for the fleet to return. In Constantinople, the government prepared to abandon the capital. And then, as the days passed and the Allies failed to appear, a fierce exultation seized the Turks. Enver Pasha crowed with confidence.
"I shall go down in history as the man who demonstrated the vulnerability of the British fleet."
Now Turkish blood was up, and the Turks turned in a fury of revenge on the aliens in their midst, the Armenians. There were 2 million Armenians in Turkey, Christians in a Muslim country. Christians, furthermore, whose homeland lay partly in Turkey, partly in Russia. Potential traitors in Turkish eyes, and tribal enemies for centuries past. In the weeks that followed, 750,000 Armenians, men, women, and children, were savagely exterminated. Said Turkish Minister Talat Bay,
"The place we have sent them to is nowhere. No Armenian can be our friend after what we have done to them."
While this killing went on, reports of an Allied military expedition forming in Egypt poured into Constantinople. Enver Pasha turned over command of the Gallipoli Peninsula to the German Liman von Sanders. Von Sanders had 6 Turkish divisions, not enough to cover the whole coastline of the Dardanelles, but he placed them cleverly to concentrate against any dangerous landing. A crash program of training, road building, and defense works followed. Time was precious. The Turks worked and waited. But no one came. Back in Egypt, the new expeditionary force struggled against disorganization and muddle. Everything had to be improvised. In the intervals of work and training, Egypt offered its diversions. Spirits were high. The war was young and new for these happy warriors. Hamilton decided to confront von Sanders with 6 simultaneous landings. At the same time, 2 diversions would add to the Turks' confusion. The French would land on the Asiatic shore and then withdraw.